Well, good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure for me to be here and to have the opportunity to talk about the certificate, ECA certificate for quality in internationalization, which is something that we started at my agency at NVO, but then was also taken to a European level at the European Consortium for Accreditation in Higher Education, and we at NVO host the Secretariat of ECA. Yeah, this is a picture. You see here the link where you can find all the information on the Certificate for Quality and Internationalization, eki.eu/internationalization. Just very briefly about the history of how it came into being. So it was already some 10 years ago when Dutch and Flemish institutions asked us at NVO for an opportunity to assess internationalization. So we are doing the accreditations and now also institutional reviews. But there was a need in institutions really to also look at internationalization. And so we developed, together with international experts, this framework for assessing internationalization, which was called the Distinctive Quality Feature on Internationalization. And that started as a pilot. 18 Dutch programs and 3 Flemish programs participated in that. This then was evaluated in 2011. Following this evaluation, we developed a new framework, also including then the institutional level. And then it was in 2012 when we had the opportunity to develop an EU-funded project called Sequent. Yeah, abbreviation is Sequent, so Certificate for Quality and Internationalization, where this framework was being tried at the European level. And then from 2015 onwards, after the project ended, ECA awards this certificate, and there is a certification group established also with members from ECA that looks at the methodology. And now we have a situation where the ECA certificate is actually the same as also the NVO distinctive quality feature, so there's not made any changes anymore. You see here a picture of how the consortium looked like. At the left side you see all the quality assurance agencies that were involved, so a lot of European agencies. And to the right you see a number of stakeholders, about 15 higher education institutions that were involved as associate partners, but also stakeholders like European students, ESU. Business Europe was also involved, USC, and also international organizations like NUFIC, the German, DRD, and AQUA. So this was developed then, and the pilots were run, and the project was concluded successfully. And now this certificate is being awarded. ECA is an association of European quality assurance agencies, 17 from 10 European countries. We also have observers from Australia and Israel. And among the aims is to facilitate internationalization, so it really fits in nicely with the aims of ECA. And how it works is that an institution can ask an ECA member agency to carry out a procedure with following the framework that has been developed. So, what is the purpose of it? Well, one of the purpose is to provide a methodology for assessing the quality and internationalization, and then this can be used for assessment, but also for self-assessment within the institution. So this is to contribute to the enhancement of the quality of internationalization, but it can also be used to reward the quality, and also institutions and programs can use it as a kind of quality label for internationalization, or to identify good practices when it comes to internationalization. To explain a little bit about the assessment methodology, so it's a framework of 5 standards with under each standard 3 criteria, 15 criteria in total. There's for the self-evaluation report is then being written by the institution of the program. There's a template for that. The composition of the panel is also done by the agency together with the institution of the program. There's a site visit then, which can be a standalone procedure, but it can also be combined with an accreditation or an evaluation of the program or the institution. There's a template also for the panel report. And then when it comes to the decision making, this is done by the ICA member agency, but there's also a methodological check, as I said already, by this certification group. To tell you then about the framework. So on the program level, it starts with the intended internationalization. And this is really the program itself that really sets the goals for internationalization. And what is also important is that these goals are supported also by stakeholders, and that it has an impact on education. That is also in the criteria when it comes to looking at this standard. On the program level, what is very important are the international and intercultural learning outcomes. So we have learning outcomes for a program, but here it is specifically about the international intercultural learning outcomes. What are the intended ones, and also what are the achieved ones? And then the question is, well, the curriculum, the teaching methods, the learning environment, do they all reflect these intended international intercultural learning outcomes? For staff and then also for students, what is important is that the composition, also of the staff and the students group also reflects these internationalization goals. For instance, if you want to have internationalization at home, then this requires also something when it comes to the staff or the student composition. Services being provided for staff, for instance, if the program is taught in English, that staff are also facilitated with that. That's also an example. And yeah, then, as I said already, the achieved international and intercultural learning outcomes. So the panel then will look, have the intended learning outcomes also been achieved, and they will look at the student assessment for that as well. So for the institutional level, it is in fact the same standard with these criteria as on the program level. It is also up to the institutions to define the internationalization goals. And then the question is, are the action plans on internationalization do they also reflect the internationalization goals? But also, does the institution really support that? Is there enough, are there enough resources also, for example? The implementation itself, that has to do with the information system, whether this enables also to monitor whether these action plans are also implemented, and then the results itself. Question then is also about the enhancement. Is there a quality assurance system that really makes it possible also to quality assure the internationalization activities. And when it comes to the governance, are the responsibilities on internationalization, are these clear? And is there also a responsiveness to input from internal and external stakeholders? Well, when if you look at the assessment rules, so it is a 4-point scale with unsatisfactory, satisfactory, good, or excellent. And the certificate is awarded when at least 3 standards are assessed as good or excellent. So there is really a threshold, and also no standard should be assessed as unsatisfactory. The composition of the panel, you see the requirements here. Well, for instance, if you have a Swedish university or a Swedish program, what this means is you would have 4 independent experts, and then 2 members should be from outside of Sweden, and 1 expert should be from Sweden, also to ensure that there is enough experience about the system represented in the panel. There's also always a student who should also have international experience and quality assurance experience. And among the 3 members, there should be at least 1 who is trained by ECA. So ECA does regularly organize trainings on Sequent, and you can also, if you're interested, you can register for that. You see the link right there. We have another trainings will be, well, not this year anymore, but next year will be another training. And also on the website you can find all kinds of documents relating to Sequent, explaining about the framework, having a guide also about how to handle the framework, and also more information about the international and intercultural learning outcomes. So what is the result up to now? Well, we have 37 programs, 37 certificates awarded, of which 31 are programs. These are mostly Dutch still, because it started also in the Netherlands. But you can see also the other countries here mentioned, so Austria, Croatia, France, Germany, Poland, and Slovenia, which also have programs with certificates awarded. And then there are also on the institutional faculty level, there are 6 institutions, Finland, France, Netherlands, and Spain, and an interesting one from Colombia. There's also an institution, because it is not really restricted to Europe. It can also be, institutions outside of Europe can apply for that. We have several procedures that are at the moment that we know, institutions that are going to apply. And there are also, in some national policies, there are funding opportunities included, or references in these policies to a certificate or a label, like you have also in the Swedish national policy, without explicitly mentioning this one, but of course this would qualify then also as such a label or a certificate. The advice of experts is also possible. We have made this part of an extended procedure, and Guido van Leersum will talk more about that. What we see now is that the certificate is, if we talk to institutions and programs, they say they will use it for improvement, but they also use it for profiling, for their reputation on internationalization to attract international students or staff. That's also sometimes always mentioned. And also within the institution to reward institutional programs or people working on internationalization within the institution. So if you have any questions, then my email address is here, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mark. Question? Yes, microphone over there.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you for coming to Sweden all the way from the Netherlands. 2 questions. What is the cost of this certification? And is there a limit of this certificate? Because we can almost anticipate that some universities might just want to get the certificate for marketing purposes, and then, you know, something in the program will go downhill where they don't actually will meet the requirements anymore, but they still have the certificate to market. So is there a time limit period for the certificate? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, it depends a bit on whether it's a program or an institution. So for a program, it's less expensive than for an institution, also because the site visit takes less time. So then it's about 19,000 euros for a program, and 29,000 for an institution. But that is if it's a standalone procedure. So there is also possible to make a combination. Maybe if you have a national review that you have to undergo, then you can have the same panel can then look at both the accreditation or evaluation requirements, and also for sequent the requirements. So your other question was about I just forgot the other question now.
Sorry.
Excuse me?
Time limit.
Time limit, yeah, right. So there's a period, an accreditation, well, or an evaluation period, which is normally 5 or 6 years. So, but this also depends on whether it's connected to the national one. So, for instance, in announced it's 6 years. So, if it's on the program level, it's 6 years. So it would be connected to that, and then it's 6 years. But otherwise, it's at least 5 years. And indeed, then you can renew it again.
Right. Thank you.